Welcome to Workplace Psychology with Dr. Martha Greidick. I'm Dr. Martha Greidick. This podcast examines a wide variety of work-related issues through the lens of industrial and organizational psychology. And while many of the topics discussed here may be seen as intended for white-collar employees and their employers, in reality, the ideas presented here are applicable across organizations and industries. Additionally, many of the topics discussed here may be applicable outside of the workplace. I encourage you to examine what's presented here, apply what makes sense to you, and simply discard the rest. There is much to be said for keeping busy, being a self-starter, and a go-getter, especially at work. After all, who doesn't love that employee? The employee who keeps busy, stays motivated, is always looking for more tasks, more responsibilities, and more ways to help whenever and wherever possible. Well, maybe those people who are trying to do as little as possible and don't want to look bad, maybe those are the only people who wouldn't love that employee. But certainly there is a difference between keeping busy, keeping motivated, and staying on task as opposed to having too much on your plate, always accepting more tasks and more responsibilities. One is a healthy approach to work, and the other one can prove to be unhealthy and even detrimental. The responsibility of knowing the difference is yours. It falls on you to know whether you have too many tasks, too many responsibilities, or just the right amount. Of course, while the responsibility is mainly yours, it's also up to a good manager to understand where his or her people are in terms of how busy they are, how effective and productive they are, and whether they have too many or not enough tasks and responsibilities. So how do you know if you have enough work, enough tasks and responsibilities, or too many? Well, first you start with yourself. The first step is to simply zoom out, take a bigger overview picture of how you are doing with your tasks and responsibilities at work. Check in with yourself and assess your own situation. How do you feel about the amount of work that you have, the tasks and the responsibilities that you have? Does the volume of your work give you a certain sense of accomplishment and satisfaction, or does it stress you out? Are you able to get all of your work done? And when it comes to finishing your work, completing all of your responsibilities, it is helpful to think in terms of percentages rather than strict black and white yes or no type of assessment. Do you get most of it done? Do you get 80 or 90% of it done? Whatever is most appropriate for you. That will vary slightly among individuals, but certainly you should be able to get most, if not all of it done in order for it to be the right amount of work or volume of work for you, assuming that you are staying productive throughout the day and not wasting time doing other things. Do you have to take your work home? Do you simply not have enough time to finish what you have to do at work while you're at the office and then have to take your work home or stay after hours? That's a good indicator of either having too much work or perhaps poor time management. But for this discussion, we're assuming that your time management is on task. How about the quality of your output? Is the quality of the work that you produce high or mediocre? That really does make a difference. What's the point of doing work that's not very well done? I think it's fair to say that a better goal to strive for is to produce good quality work. It doesn't always have to be perfect. Certainly there are professions where you have to be either pretty close to perfect, or there are potential serious repercussions. But generally speaking, for the most people don't have to be perfect in their work, but certainly striving for good quality output is key here. Something else to consider is, what are your reasons for taking on extra responsibilities and extra tasks at work? Is it simply because you like to keep busy and you're very efficient at what you do? Is it because you're seeking a promotion or upward movement in your career? Or is it because you are looking to escape via your work? Maybe you're avoiding something. Maybe it's something in your personal life. And the busier you are at work, the more work that you have, the more opportunity you have to avoid whatever the issue may be outside of work. So those are important things to consider. Why are you taking on more and more responsibilities and more work while at the office? And again, while there may be perfectly good reasons for it, there may also be reasons that are less than ideal and could use your attention. After checking in with yourself, check in with your manager. This is an important conversation to have for most, if not all, people. Ask your manager about the quality and the volume of your work. Does your manager think that you have enough responsibilities and tasks, or do you have too much on your plate in his or her opinion? And that's a point of discussion. Maybe he thinks that you have too much or too little on your plate, and your idea is different. So it's a good conversation to have. And of course, the other part of that conversation is the quality of your work. Does your manager think that the output of your efforts is high quality, or does it need improvement? So this is an important conversation to have, especially when you're looking at the amount of work and responsibilities that you carry at the office every day. Checking in with others doesn't stop with your manager. It's also important to check with your spouse or life partner, or maybe family members, or even your friends. Check in with them to see if they have an opinion on the amount of work, tasks, and responsibilities that you seem to have at work. Does it interfere with your personal life? Are you bringing your work home and as a result don't have much of a personal life? So it's an important conversation to have with one or two of those close people outside of your work life. Although many of us have been told throughout the years how important it is to be a go-getter, a self-starter, to keep busy and to never say no and take on as many tasks and responsibilities at work as possible, that's not always the case. There is a time when you simply have more on your plate than you can effectively handle, especially when the quality of your work suffers and when you're unable to complete all of your work and take care of all of your work responsibilities. So as you can see, this is an important topic to consider for everybody. As this episode comes to an end, let's review what was discussed. As you assess the volume of your own tasks and responsibilities at work, first, it's important to recognize that the responsibility for this assessment falls mostly on you. Take a step back and assess your situation. How much work do you have? Are you able to finish it on time? This is, of course, assuming that you don't have a time management issue going on. How is the quality of your work? Are you taking your work home? Once you make an honest assessment of what's going on with all of your tasks and responsibilities at work, it's important to check in with your manager. What is his take on the volume of responsibilities and tasks that you have, as well as on the quality of your work. If your opinions differ, it's a good conversation to have to come to some kind of understanding. And finally, it's also important to check in with one or two people outside of work, those that are most important or closest to you. Are you taking your work home with you? Are you missing out on a personal life because of having too many responsibilities and too many tasks at work? As the week unfolds, I invite you to assess your own volume of tasks and responsibilities. Think about how much work you have, why you have all this work, if it's a lot, how effectively are you completing this work, what the quality of it is, and what you can do to make a change. Some of you may discover that the amount of tasks and responsibilities that you currently have are just right. Some of you may discover that you could take on more, and that's okay too. But some of you may discover that you have too much on your plate. And for those of you who discover just that, it's time to take a closer look at why that is and then work towards changing it so that you can have just the right amount of work so that you're keeping busy, moving forward and upward in your career, but at the same time you are satisfied with the work that you do because it's not stressing you out because of the sheer volume of it, that you're putting out good quality work. So as the week unfolds, I invite you to assess your own situation and make changes as necessary. Thank you for joining me today. Please subscribe to this podcast. I hope that you will join me again next time. Until then, I wish you joy and well-being.